Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Desiree, and on my channel I talk about all things wellness. If you haven't already liked and subscribed to my channel, do that and turn on the notifications. That way you get notified every time I put out a new video. Those of you who are already subscribed to my channel, if you have noticed, I have not put out a video for the last couple of weeks for a few reasons. Number one, the holidays were here. Number two, it was my birthday and I was out of town. And number three, some of y'all need to get caught up. You haven't seen some of my other videos. I have several videos out there and they definitely have some great content and they're different from each other. So I wanted to slow it down a little bit, give you some time, check out those other videos. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I've done some cooking videos, but today is going to be more about prepping. So I get a lot of questions about how I prep, when I prep, and what I prep. I've mentioned before that my husband is not able to eat red meat. And as a result, I have to cook a lot of chicken. I cook chicken, turkey, and fish. We usually have fish once a week. But today I'm going to be showing you how I prepare 3 different meals out of one big tray of chicken. So I know what you're thinking. If you are on my Facebook page in Elemental Life and Wellness, I'm sure that you have seen that I have shared a lot of chicken dishes. So when we eat a lot of chicken, something that I challenge myself to do is to figure out how to make chicken in different ways so that we don't get bored. My husband has a great big appetite and he loves food just as much as I love food. So we want to make sure that whatever we're consuming, we really enjoy it, because it's hard to stay on this type of lifestyle if you don't enjoy what you're eating. So today I'm going to show you how I prep out my food and how I bring in maximum taste as well. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind is that in these particular dishes, I am going to have some cheese. Now, I have mentioned before that I do think that cheese is very high in calories. I do pay attention to the calorie content when I'm making meals, especially these days as I'm trying to really work on my gut health and get the weight where I want it to be. Moving forward in January, I'm going to be doing something really big, which is I'm going to attempt to give up cheese for the entire month of January. Not the first few days of January, because of course I'll be meal prepping out food. We are gonna need to eat it. But after those meals are ate, we are not gonna be eating cheese. I wanted to give up cheese for a little while, and that means my husband's gonna have to give up cheese too. So as I make our meals for the month of January, I have to make sure that I'm not including cheese. So be paying attention to my channel, because I'm going to have to get really creative here to compensate for no cheese. So if you're interested in what I prepare for the next few days, 3 meals out of 1 tray of chicken, keep watching. I am now in my kitchen and I'm getting ready to make chicken 3 ways. So one thing that I'm going to be making this week is Greek chicken. It is one of my favorite meals. I'm going to be making Philly cheesesteak stuffed peppers. And because I always make usually 1 soup a week, I'm going to make one of my husband's favorites, which is buffalo chicken. So as you can see, I have already prepared my counter. You can't see my entire counter, unfortunately. Someday we're going to have a bigger house, a bigger boat, but until then, this is what I have to work with. So I have gone ahead and separated out all of my meals. I've got my buffalo chicken soup here. I've got my Greek chicken here, and then over here where you can't see, I have already prepared and gotten ready for my Philly cheesesteak peppers. So what I'm going to do next, now that I've done a lot of my prep work, and truly it doesn't take that long, as long as you've got lots of little different bowls, however you want to do it, make it your own. If you've got plenty of time, take your time and do this process. But for me, I like to get things done as quickly as I possibly can. I've preheated my oven so that once one of my chicken sets is ready, I can go ahead and get it in the oven. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cutting my chicken apart. I'm going to separate it into 3 sections. Some of it is going to go in a baking dish in the oven, which is going to be for my buffalo chicken soup, because I want to shred that chicken. I do not like to cook it on top of the stove and then cube it up. I just don't like the texture that it gives me. Then the second set, I'm gonna chop up into chunks and put in a gallon zip baggie with marinade, and I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator for our Greek chicken. That way it's marinating while I move on to the next set of chicken. The last bit is gonna be the chicken for my Philly cheesesteak stuffed peppers. What I like to do is take chicken and put it in my food processor and pulse it a little bit. The benefit of that is it gives me kind of that texture of having an actual chicken Philly cheesesteak. I have now finished cutting up and preparing all of my chicken. So I have 2 breasts that I'm gonna season and put in the oven for my buffalo chicken soup. I have diced up my chicken, which is gonna go in my gallon bag, and I'm using my holiday leftover bags. I'm gonna put my marinade in here, put it in the fridge, and let it set while I'm working on the rest. And I have chopped up big chunks of chicken and I put it in my food processor. I have a Ninja, and I love the Ninja because it gives me the ability to use the food processor, the bullets for my shakes that I've posted, as well as my blender for other things like pancake batter. I actually make my pancake batter in my blender. So a Ninja is a great investment. If you haven't already gotten one, definitely do yourself a favor and get one of those. So I have my chicken in my food processor and ready to go. Just a moment. So what I'm gonna do now is season my chicken, get it in the oven, move on to the next thing. I'm gonna use some onion powder. And because this is just for soup, I'm not going to be real pretty about it. I'm just going to get it seasoned. I'm going to use some garlic salt. I have been thinking about transitioning over to Flavor God. It's not a sponsored video, but if Flavor God wants to sponsor a video, I will let him do so. But I like Flavor God. I do have some of the spices. I've just gotten them. And they don't have extra salts or sugars, things like that. Sugar is a big issue. I'm always mindful of sugar. My chicken is ready to go in the oven, so I'm gonna pop it in at 375. And I'm gonna set it for about 40 minutes. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to get my marinade into my gallon zip baggie so that I can get my chicken in the refrigerator so it can sit for at least 30 minutes. If you don't have time to do that, you can skip it, or you can put it in the morning and set your chicken in the refrigerator in the morning in a bowl and then come to it in the evening after you're done work. However you want to do it. I have done both. I went ahead and put all of my seasonings into my Greek chicken. In the Greek chicken, which I am going to go ahead and list below, I do have red wine vinegar, oregano, sea salt, garlic powder, onion powder. I used fresh lemon juice that I squeezed myself, and y'all know how much I love doing that. Olive oil, and I didn't put any pepper in here because I'm not a huge lover of pepper. Some people love pepper, I don't. So I've got everything that I need in here, and I'm going to go ahead and mix it all up in my little baggie, get it in the fridge. My chicken that is in the oven is going to take some time, and that is for my buffalo chicken soup. So I'm actually going to be doing my soup last and taking out my cream cheese and let it sit at room temperature because I need it to be soft when I add it in. The recipe doesn't call for 8 ounces of cream cheese, but I like that much cream cheese, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the entire box of cream cheese for that. So I want it to be nice and soft. I have already pulsed my chicken in my food processor. Now, word to caution here, when you are pulsing your chicken, it doesn't take much. I think that I pressed the button like 4, maybe 5 times. You don't want to grind it down all the way because then it's no different than getting ground chicken. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cook up my peppers. I've got mushrooms that I'm going to add this time. Last time I didn't add mushrooms and I really felt like the dish was missing just a little something. And let me rephrase that. I have developed an appreciation for mushrooms. So when I can put them into things, I certainly do. If you don't like mushrooms, you can leave it out. It's totally up to you. The other thing that I am going to be putting in is sliced onions. If you don't like onions, you can skip that too. The other thing that I will share with you is that my husband's stomach is a little sensitive, so I don't generally use a lot of green peppers. But for this particular dish, I just feel like you can't have Philly cheesesteak without peppers. So I'm a northerner, and that's what we used. The other thing I will be using for this dish is provolone. So now that I think about it, all 3 dishes are going to have some sense of cheese. I know, it's so bad. So for the buffalo chicken soup, I'm going to be adding cheddar cheese to the end. Of course, it has cream cheese, so it has cheese. The Greek chicken is going to have feta cheese, so that's cheese. And our Philly cheesesteaks, provolone, so cheese. But you know, cheese is good. I'm going to get in all the cheese I can because come January, Mama's not going to be eating no cheese. Something else that I wanted to add was that large tray of chicken that I had gave me 7 breasts. 2.5 I used for my Philly cheesesteak. 2.5 I used for my Greek chicken. And then the 2 largest ones I used for my buffalo chicken soup. If you can get a tray that gives you 8, great. If not, just use what you've got. My goal is going to be to get as many meals out of each dish that I create. I know that the soup usually yields me like 6 servings, sometimes more, depending upon the size. And right now I only have 6 peppers for my Philly cheesesteak. Sometimes I'm able to squeeze in 2 more. And depending upon how much chicken that yields me, I think it's only going to give me 6, which is fine. That's 3 meals right there. Then the Greek chicken usually gives me 4 to 5, depending upon the size. The other thing that I noticed is that I have a real hard time with following directions or following the rules. And I have stuff left over. I usually have the tomatoes and cucumbers and the stuff, the little stuff that you put on top. I usually have some left over, and that's all right because I put it in a container and I eat it by itself, a little snacky snack. While I am frying up my vegetables for my Philly cheesesteak, I'm going to prepare my peppers for the dish. I already have them cut up and ready, but what I need to do now is create little boats for them. I mentioned it on my Facebook page that I put them in little boats, and the reason that I do that is because this pepper, you can see it's kind of roundish and it can fall over, and I don't want it to fall over in the casserole. To create your boat, just get some aluminum foil, wrap it around your pepper, and just fold it over, kind of like this. Stick it in your dish and it'll hold it in place. My peppers are already in their nice little lovely boats. I added a little bit of olive oil and some salt. Now what I'm going to do is stick them in the oven as well for about 15-20 minutes because I want my peppers to soften up before I want to fill them with my mixture. My peppers, onions, and mushrooms are basically done. I'm going to remove them from the heat, and then I'm going to put my pulse chicken into the same skillet and then start cooking that up as well. Now, I don't actually have a specific recipe for this because it's something that I just kind of created in my own head. But I will tell you that I do use garlic powder, garlic salt, and onion powder to the chicken. I'm going to cook this all the way through, and then I'm going to add all my veggies back to it. My chicken is cooked. My veggies are cooked. I've let them cook a little bit more together. While I was finishing that up, the peppers were brought out. They are nice and soft, and they're in their little boats. I'm going to scoop out the chicken into my little boats. I'm going to top it with provolone and stick it back in the oven for a few minutes for it to get bubbly. It smells amazing. It smells so good. I wish I could eat it right now. They look beautiful. Now I'm going to top with thick cut provolone. And the type of provolone you get does actually matter. If you get the thin provolone, it's going to melt a lot. And when you reheat it, it's going to just disintegrate. I have finished shredding my chicken, and it's still hot, so I'm just going to lift it up and show you. I've got everything ready for the buffalo chicken soup to get started. Now I'm going to check on my peppers. Oh, they look amazing. Check that out. So beautiful. So now I need to get them out of the little boats because I can't leave them in the aluminum foil because you can't pop them in the microwave that way, and then get them into the little to-go containers and get the lids on them. This is a process you need to be careful. I'm used to touching very hot things, so if you need to wait for them to cool down, then you may want to do that as well. But I'm not. I'm living on the wild side. Ooh, hot. I also like to mix up the peppers a little bit too. I had yellow, orange, and red. I've got all my peppers in the to-go containers. Check that out. So all I have to do is pop them in the microwave and I am good to go. My Philly stuffed peppers are now in the refrigerator, and I've decided instead of making the Greek chicken next, I'm going to make the buffalo chicken soup instead. That way it can sit on top of the stove and bubble up a little bit. What I need to do now is I have my frying pan out and I'm going to turn it on, get it ready, and I'm going to saute up my onions, my celery, and my garlic. Once that's done, I'm going to get it into my pot with I use bone broth and the rest of my seasonings, my chicken, and then we'll go from there. I'm all finished sauteing my onions, my celery, and my garlic. What I'm going to do now is add my pre-shredded chicken to a pot. I'm going to add in my bone broth, and I'm going to add in I use Sweet Baby Ray's, but you could probably use something else. Always read the ingredients on the back. I did compare this to many other brands, and there were so many that had a lot of sugar. This doesn't. So I do use that because I just do not have the time to make Now that I have all of my ingredients, pretty much all of them in the pot, I'm going to move on to the Greek chicken and start getting my chicken cooked up. Now I'm going to start doing a few things at the same time. The other thing that I have going on is I have some cauliflower rice in the microwave. I don't make all my own cauliflower rice. Sometimes I get really ambitious for a certain dish and I'll make my own, but usually when I'm doing prepping like this, I just get easy stuff. I also have some cauliflower rice that I'm going to be adding to my buffalo chicken soup. Now you'll notice that the recipe doesn't call for it, but I really like it in the soup. It just gives it this nice flavor and consistency. Start cooking my chicken, and then once the broth and everything in the pot is warm enough, I'm going to put some things in the blender to make it all creamy. Oh, it smells amazing. The chicken has been in the fridge for quite a while now, and it's really soaked up all those juices. While my chicken is cooking, I'm going to move on to the salsa for my Greek chicken. Now, something that I didn't mention earlier is that I have already chopped up my vegetables. My husband has diverticulitis, and because of that, he can't have seeds of any kind. The other thing to consider is that this recipe calls for cherry tomatoes. Now, I personally love cherry tomatoes, but they have a lot of seeds in them, and because I have to take the seeds out, I use Romas. The other thing to keep in consideration is that tomatoes in general have lectins, and lectins are responsible for adding to gut issues. So if you're working on your gut health, you may not want to use the tomatoes. You may want to substitute
Now
for
I'm
something
ready
else
to
out.
do
My salsa. My chicken isn't quite done yet, and my soup is still simmering, so I have some time. I'm going to take my cucumbers and my tomatoes, put them in a larger bowl, and again, remember, you're going to have some left over. If you follow the recipe, you won't have this much left over. I do because I want extra. I'm going to take olive oil and red wine vinegar, and I'm going to pour it over the top. And again, the recipe will be in the description. I have red onions that I have already chopped up, and I usually try to use my fingers and break them up some more. It makes my eyes water. But I love them in this dish. I never used to like onions, but I developed an appreciation for them. I will tell you that a lot of onions are a little higher in natural sugar. So again, if you're trying to work on gut health or you're trying to avoid unnecessary sugars, then you may not want to add those. Because I'm extra, y'all know I'm extra, I'm going to add in my artichokes, which I have already chopped up. I like to get whole small artichokes in the cans, and sometimes I'll just eat a whole artichoke. I know, y'all think I'm gross, but it's delicious and I love it. I also have already sliced up my Kalamata olives. Now you can use different olives if you want to, but I prefer Kalamata on this dish. Now I'm just going to take a little spatula and I whisk everything up. Mix it up. Whisk it. It's a word that's in the dictionary. You can look it up. And I always smell everything. It smells good. I think it needs more red wine vinegar. It makes them more better. More better. More better, yo. Ah, that's the smell. Y'all, I wish you could smell this, but you can at least see it. Get into it. It's delicious, delicious. Now, you can't forget the cheese. So I have leftover feta cheese, and I'm going to use the rest of this container. So it's about a little less than half, I've added my feta, and I changed my mind because I changed my mind a lot, and I'm going to save a little feta, and I'm thinking, since I'm not giving up cheese for just a couple more days, I'm going to be having an omelet in the morning with some spinach and some feta, and I don't have any more tomato. Mushrooms. I got a few mushrooms left, so I'm going to have myself a little omelet in the morning. What I like to do is I like to leave a couple of pieces that are bigger so that I can cut through them to make sure that everything is done. I also do not have really large chunks throughout. I like to leave them kind of small. And the reason I do that is because I want to make sure that I get 4 servings out of this. It's important to remember that if you're watching your caloric consumption, you don't need huge, gigantic meals. You're going to have the salsa as well. And I'm going to put this over top of cauliflower rice as well. So it's going to be a nice hearty meal. Now, here comes the fun part. My chicken, the Greek chicken, is almost done, and my soup has been simmering for a while. But now I need to make it creamy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the broth from the soup and pour it in my blender. Step back because it's steamy. I'm going to take half a cup of heavy whipping cream. That's right. And I'm going to take 8 ounces of cream cheese that's already softened, and I'm going to put it in the blender as well. I'm banging into my cabinets because I have a little kitchen. I got some on the cabinet. I got it. I got it. I got it. It's all right. I got it. And I'm going to scoop off every bit because I needs it. I'm going to put my lid on, and we're going to have some magic. Now we're going to blend it. Tip number 1. Do not attempt this in like a bullet where it's upside down, because hot things expand. It makes a mess. Don't ask me how I know this, because I'm not going to tell you how I know this. I'm just saying. Tip number 2, when you take off the lid, do it easy. Very easy. Because it's warm. Tip number 3, before you pour it back into the pot, take the blade out so it doesn't come flying out and hit your soup and end up all over the cabinets. Again, don't ask me how I know this. Now we're going to pour it into our pot. So creamy. Now I want to mention that you can make this dish in an Instapot. You can make it in a slow cooker. I just prefer to do it on my stovetop because I just don't have the counter space to pull out my Instapot or a slow cooker. At least not to show y'all. If I wanted to make it just by itself, then I could. The other tip is, if you wanted to put your pre-shredded chicken in the fridge and make your soup the next day, you can do that. I have done that, where I prepare my chicken 3 different ways, chop it up, put it in the fridge, go ahead and bake my chicken and shred it and put it in the fridge, and I do it on different days. So that's an option too. You don't have to do it all at one time. Now that I've got everything added back into my pot, I'm going to go ahead and add in my riced cauliflower. Again, you don't have to do this, but I like the way that it thickens the soup and it gives it more heartiness. So it makes you feel fuller. Something I forgot to do was to add my oregano to my salsa, my Greek chicken salsa. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, if you want to be good and measure it out, you can do that. You can do that. I just don't wanna. No, not gonna do it. I'm just gonna do what I wanna do, because it's my kitchen and it's my story, and I like oregano. Yep, smells good. It is there. We are in the home stretch. Hang in there, y'all. We're getting there. My chicken is basically done for the Greek chicken, and my soup is simmering on low. I am going to prep my to-go containers. So I've got my containers, and I've got little dishes here for tzatziki sauce. Now, you can make your own tzatziki sauce, but Mama ain't got time for all that. For this dish in particular, I do not make my own. But
Someday, if I have more free time, I could. But that's not today. Today is not that day. So we're going to prepare these. I need to get in the cauliflower rice. I'm going to put the chicken on top, and then I'm going to go ahead and start putting the salsa on top. Now, I know what you're thinking. When I reheat it, is the salsa going to get hot? Yes. And it still tastes delicious, and no, the feta doesn't melt. I don't know why. It's wild, but it doesn't. And it still tastes now amazing. I'm going to separate my chicken out 4 ways. Sometimes I'm extra, and I try to separate it in the saucepan, but I'm not doing that today. Just got to eyeball it again. It's time for me to scoop out the salsa. Just going to put it right on top. Ooh, the flavors smell amazing. It looks pretty good. Now I'm going to take my tzatziki sauce, which I'm going to try to make sure I have some left over for my leftovers for tomorrow. And I'm just going to scoop a good amount into each little container. There you have it. So my meals are already prepared and ready, and all I have to do is put the lids on, put them in the fridge, and then I'm going to move over to the soup. We're all finished, y'all. So the buffalo chicken soup came out amazing. I have put it in my to-go containers. I was able to get 6 servings out of this. I've got 2 small ones that are going to go in the refrigerator, and then I have 2 bigger ones. I may put 1 in the freezer and 1 in the fridge. It really just depends. I'll probably put 1 in the fridge to get started, and then if we don't eat it within a couple days, I'll put it in the freezer. I do like to have a pretty good amount of soup in the freezer at all times because you never know. But I'm going to put the lids on, put them away, and we are done. So that is chicken 3 different ways. Again, you can do it on different nights, however you want to do it, but that is how I meal prep some of our food.
Thank you so much, guys, for watching my video. I appreciate you so much for taking time out of your day. I appreciate you being part of my journey. I love it when you guys comment on my videos. If you've got thoughts, things you want to share, put them below. I'm going to be reading them, and I will do my best to respond to them as quickly as possible. If you haven't already gotten on my Facebook page or my Instagram, definitely do that in Elemental Life and Wellness. Follow me in my journey because I'm about to do some more stuff. My journey is getting bigger, and I have some things in the works I hope to share with you guys very soon. It's something I'm extremely passionate about and excited about, and I hope that it will help the rest of you as well. As I always say, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that you are tuning in and watching my videos and being part of my journey. As I always say, go out into the world, put joy out there, and do you. Bye.